Hello and welcome to Tête-à-Tête, France 24's flagship interview show. Our guest today is Mahbouba Seraj. She's a prominent women's rights advocate in Afghanistan, and she joins us from Kabul. Thank you very much for being with us.
You're very welcome, and thank you for having me in your program.
This Thursday, the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court announced that he was seeking arrest warrants against the supreme leader of the Taliban and his chief justice because of crime against humanity and persecution on gender grounds. The prosecutor said Afghan women and girls were facing, quote, an unprecedented, unconscionable and ongoing persecution by the Taliban. What is your reaction to this news?
Well, it's how shall I say it? I should say it's long overdue, really. After all that was going on against the women of this country, and nothing was being done, really, I found it to be extremely disappointing and very annoying, because women of Afghanistan, they are really suffering. They have been suffering since the minute the Taliban arrived and they stopped life and living for the women of Afghanistan. So, education is out, walking around is out, traveling is out, going to the park is out, going to the doctor is out. Even right now, going to the institutes and learning something, to become a nurse or a doctor or a midwife, that's also out. So it's like there's got to be a stop to this. This is becoming absolutely ridiculous. We are in the 21st century. So how long are we going to be living like this? And we were waiting for something to be done. But this I don't consider it to be something done. I mean, it is on one way. And then on the other, for me, we have to see the effect of it and the lives of the women here. When that happens, then I'd really call it a positive, how shall I say, action. Yeah.
Right. Obviously, you mentioned it. There have been a number of decrees, measures taken by the Taliban to ban women essentially from education, from public life, even for working for non-governmental organizations. Would you describe the situation in Afghanistan as a gender apartheid?
Yes, I do. And although it took me really a long time to actually accept this or to actually go along with this, because I was always worried about the people of my country, that, with the gender apartheid, there's going to be a lot more, orders coming from the international community, stopping things, situation of human assistance and other ways. These are all the things that I was really worried about. And what is going to happen? Is it how it is going to affect the men and women of this country? Because gender apartheid, because if it affects the men, it's going to affect the women actually, definitely at some point, because it's going to trickle down. But at the same time, it's becoming like really ridiculous at this point. And I do believe that this is gender apartheid, and something has to be done, because we are dying here. The women of Afghanistan are literally dying. We have no right for living in this country. And that is not okay with me. Absolutely not with me, not with anybody from Afghanistan, whether we are outside of the country or inside. Is not right. And I'm sure with a lot of people in the international community is not acceptable either. But some, they might not really, care about it or think about it very deeply, but there are some that they really do believe that this has to stop, because this has gone too long, and all of the girls and the women, especially the young girls, they are suffering, and this suffering is hurting them. It's hurting their mental well-being, their health, their whole hope and for life is just getting out of them, and that is absolutely horrible. Because that is going to affect the generations coming. These women are going to become mothers. They're going to be mother of their children. And what is happening to the women as far as the education is concerned is actually affecting the lives of the young boys and young men in this country. So we really have to do something about it. This has gone too far for too long.
Right. Would you say now there's been a debate since the Taliban returned to power whether there is a moderate Taliban versus a more hardline Taliban when it comes especially to women's rights, and we could also say to human rights in general. Would you say now that there's only one Taliban and it's the hardliners that are essentially directing what is being done to women and human rights in Afghanistan?
No, I mean there are people that don't really believe in this way of treating the women of Afghanistan the way they are doing it, a part of the Taliban, or maybe half of them, or whoever, maybe a group of them. But that doesn't mean anything, because at the end of the day, what that group or that part, even though if they are a few, if they are the small group or whatever, they want. That's what happens. So that's what gets implemented. So I really don't know what the Taliban, that they are not pro this and they are, against it, what they are trying to prove and say what? They are not for it, but then at the same time, it's just being implemented all over to all of the women of Afghanistan. So what? What does that mean? Because it's not going to, it hasn't affected the lives of the women so far. So this is to me, it's a kind of escape that they are kind of route that they have chosen for themselves. But as far as the implementation is concerned, is being implemented, as far as I'm concerned, by the Taliban, who have the power to all the women. Yeah.
What should the international community do? No country has recognized the Taliban regime. However, we've seen India re-engage a bit. We even saw a swap of prisoners between the US and the Taliban. Would you advocate more isolation, more sanctions, or engagement even with this kind of regime that you just described?
Well, isolation is not good for Afghanistan. It's not good for the people of Afghanistan. Afghanistan is not only Talibs. Afghanistan is not only a certain group of people. Afghanistan is 40 million people. 20 million of them are women and 20 million of them are men. So this country has, this much as far as the population is concerned. And we do need to have our place in the world. This whole isolation of ours is just not acceptable. But then if we do get, together with the world and the world is going to, we are going to start having discussions, that is something that I do believe in. We have to have discussion. We have to start, talking to each other. We have to come up with some kind of a solution. Otherwise, this is not life. We would like to have a life finally. We really want to get our lives back as Afghan women and also as Afghan people. Look at the world where the world is, and we are going backwards. It's going backwards. It's not going to help us. Right now, with a few years that the Taliban have been here, we have gone at least about 50, 60 years back. This is not acceptable in the world that is going so fast ahead of time. So whatever it is that we need to do, we have to do it because life has to go on. And we have to go on. And the men and women of this country, especially the young generation, we are supposed to be going along, and we are supposed to be developing, and we are supposed to be moving up, not going backwards. That is not acceptable. Absolutely.
As a conclusion, Mahbouba, you've been an advocate and you've made a point of going back to Afghanistan, staying there. You're speaking from Kabul now. But given the situation that you just described, do you consider leaving your native country for good?
Well, Mark, I'm absolutely in love with my country. I should really say that. I love this country more than anything on the face of the earth. But I do love it, and I want to be here, especially because maybe by being here, by being with my African sisters, I might be able to bring about some kind of a change. Maybe it might be small at times. Some other times it might be bigger. But I just want to say that, I have a role to play in here, and I'm going to stick by my sisters. I'm going to be here to see what we can do in order to improve the lives of the women of Afghanistan. That is my calling. That's what I do, and that's why. Yeah, I will be staying here until my last breath. That's what I want.
Mahbouba Seraj, I want to thank you very much for being with us here on France 24 from Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan. And thank you all for watching this edition of Tête à Tête here on France 24.